ready to go. Just
Oh,
give me 1 second.
Lisa just said she'll be 5 minutes late, so we'll get it going and then she'll hop on.
Just give me 1 second.
No problem.
You're all set.
Thank you, Sabrina. All right, everyone, welcome to the Economic Community Development Committee of the Common Council. I will call this meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. And I will do a roll call by announcing who is with us tonight, and that's Ms. Smith, Mr. Frayer, Ms. Young, and Mr. Meek, and myself, the chairman, John Kites. And then now we're going to roll right into public participation. Sabrina, do we have anyone signed up to speak?
We do not, and I don't have anybody in the attendee list at all.
Okay, we'll close public participation and now move on to the administration work of item 1A, and that's the approval of the minutes of July 6, 2023. Would someone like to move those minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. All right. Any corrections, deletions, omissions before I call for the vote? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, please raise your hand and signify yes.
Abstain.
Let the record show Mr. Meek abstained and the minutes pass. Okay, now on some new business, item 2A under redevelopment. That's the advancement of the PY47 CAPER to the Common Council with authorization for the mayor to sign all forwarding documentation required by HUD. Would someone like to move that?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Frayer. Do we have anyone from redevelopment that is going to speak to this?
Steven's here.
Hi, John. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Stephen.
So this is the third year of our consolidated plan that we are reporting on for the PY48 year. The CAPER is a yearly report that summarizes some of our accomplishments for CDBG funds that have been spent. I'm here to answer any questions that you guys may have. And otherwise, I'm nice and short and quick today.
I guess there was some issue with the backup information we received last year's CAPER, but about an hour ago we got the updated version. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you have anybody have any questions? Seeing that we unfortunately just received these the 23 updated version fairly recently.
I'd just like to say that I think it was a pretty comprehensive and very impressive report.
We appreciate that. We do put a little bit of effort into it. Again, moving forward, if anybody has any questions, we're always free to have a phone call, email, or otherwise.
Yeah, I also like to say, Stephen, I know a lot of work goes into this, and thank you and to redevelopment for all the hard work you guys do. All right, Miss.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. I got one myself. All right, it's been moved by Mr. Frayer, and all in favor, please raise your hand to signify yes. Unanimous. Great. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, on to item 2B, and that's a zoning update, including the waterfront study, and our good friend, Mr. Kleppen, is here to provide that to us.
Good evening, everybody. I'll try to be as concise as possible. I have some quick slides I'll run through with you guys just to give you an update on some things. If I can find my slides. There. Okay, is that how's do you need me to blow that up at all? Is that okay?
I see it fine.
Okay. So I'm just going to walk you through a few things. Just a quick update on some study work and zoning regulations rewrite. And then just update you on some projects that have been ongoing and some ones that were actually just approved last night by the Planning and Zoning Commission that are some of them are familiar to you guys, but they're pretty significant projects. I'll just give you a kind of flavor of what was approved. So for the zoning regulations themselves, the Planning and Zoning Commission's been working pretty diligently on those. They're meeting once a week now, every Wednesday. We already met twice a month as it was for just normal business, but so they've added in 2 meetings a month to go through things. The big, obviously the bone of contention early on was some of the upzoning related to the new zoning map. That's been scaled back significantly. And I think the commission's probably, I'd say, about 95% set on where they'd like to be with the zoning map. There's just a few areas they're still kind of going over and discussing, but that's in a really good place at the moment. You'll recall a couple of months back, we went through the industrial waterfront study and put a letter together to the Planning and Zoning Commission from this body with some changes that you had requested to see included in the plan. We referred out the plan with those amendments as we're required to by statute. We're awaiting comments back from Connecticut Deep, which I anticipate probably won't be favorable. Just that was anticipated ahead of time. The Harbor Management Commission provided us with a memo last week with their concerns, which I think will probably be echoed in large part by Connecticut Deep as well. Harbor Management's concerns centered around adding density along the waterfront and the potential loss of water dependent uses. And a lot of that had to do with the rezoning of the northern half of Water Street, which we spent a lot of time talking about. And I think it really, but at the end of the day, it's just different visions. I think that the zoning regulations can afford both things to happen. Maybe not to everybody's liking and desire, but I think at the end of the day, if and when any of those properties do develop, they'll be developed in a manner that's kind of more appropriate for what's going on to the north of those parcels. Also be something that will develop that will definitely, I think, aid and improve water quality, because right now those properties kind of are pretty much 100% impervious surface and have direct runoff right into the harbor. So that's not beneficial, but they'll also have to maintain a water dependent use. So that will be factored in as well. So, but that public hearing on that item is front of the Planning and Zoning Commission on September 20th. So about 2 weeks away from now.
Steve, Mike, is chime in. So you're saying the recommendations that this committee made and the council as a whole are not going to be, taken into consideration by the Planning and Zoning Commission?
No, so that's not correct. No, sorry if I was confusing you at all. So the recommendations that you had put forth were submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and that was what was referred out to the Harbor Management Commission. The Harbor Management Commission did not look favorably on some of those changes.
I guess you have you're tapped into the pulse of planning and zoning. Do you feel that planning and zoning ultimately will pass it as we presented it to them, or do you think they're going to make the changes? Because you mentioned it's going to mirror the northern side of Water Street. Right.
Yeah, they haven't discussed that item in depth since it was probably last in front of them and referred out to you a while ago. They are aware of the changes. They've discussed the draft zoning map does reflect those changes. So they are cognizant of that and didn't raise any objections at that time. I imagine that the public discussion will be pretty robust on that matter. But I think that there's some of the commission members for certain are probably going to, understand why the council went in the direction that you went in.
Okay. And what's the timeline on that? I know seeing that Deep is looking at it, Harbor Commission. When do you think they'll make their final decision?
I would anticipate there's a good chance that they vote on the 20th, which is in about 2 weeks. If not, then it would be probably 2 weeks later at their first October meeting. But I would anticipate they'll probably take action at that time. I mean, the thing to remember is that while they are voting on the plan, it's only an amendment to the POCD, which is really a 2-line amendment. So I'm optimistic that they'll look favorably on it.
Got it. Okay.
Another study we're working on in conjunction with Circa is a resiliency study within South Norwalk, looking at basically what happens if and when we have flooding events. How do we get people out of certain areas, more vulnerable areas of the city, to higher ground? So That study's been going on for about 6 months now. It's been, I think they've come up with some pretty interesting ideas. We're looking at setting up our kind of final public presentation on the recommendations. I think it's September 25th or 26th. We're still ironing out those dates. We're going to end up having a walking tour for a couple of the areas so they can show folks what they're thinking about. I'll pass on that information to this body when we know for certain the date and the time for that meeting, and happy to come back and show you kind of those recommendations in more detail at that time, since they're kind of still in draft form at this point. But I think it's kind of an interesting study. It's nice to participate in a study where it's not just all theoretical, where they're actually coming up with actions and something the city can consider implementing over time. Another study that is just starting to pick up steam is the affordable housing plan. We have been, we've engaged a consultant that's been working on it over the summer. They have, basically doing their due diligence, a lot of fact finding, a lot of research into what our regulations are, what our plans are, and then, taking a deep dive into census data and those kind of things. We're putting together a committee that's going to be looking at that, and they're anticipating, the first kind of meeting of that organization probably around similarly around the end of September, early October, with wrap up of the study sometime in hopefully early or spring of 2024. And I think there'll definitely be council representation on that group. So we'll be working with Mr. Burnett to come up with some folks that might be interested in participating. And happy to come back and report progress to you and on how that unfolds and what recommendations come out of that plan. Wanted to just update you on some of the more significant projects that have been either approved or under construction or close to that phase. First one is the North 7 Phase 1 project up at Glover Avenue. They haven't scheduled a public hearing date. I anticipate that probably comes at the end of October, early November. We're working with them on kind of some of the draft plans. And, there's a lot of traffic concerns with that. So we're going to have a secondary peer review done of the traffic for that area. So that's kind of just kicking off in terms of the public process for that one. You may have been down to Monroe Street, down by the train station, and seen 10 Monroe Street popping out of the ground pretty significantly across from the police station. They are actually going to start leasing up that building, they said, by November. They're really moving pretty quickly with that project. And I think once all the phases of that project are done, when they rehab the kind of historic buildings that flank the corner of the project itself, it should be a really nice looking project and add a lot of vitality to that corner of the street. The other project that's moving at a little slower pace, but it's a lot larger a project, is the Pinnacle project on West Avenue, where the old Loman's Plaza was. They're probably at 3 to 4 stories framed now, moving pretty quickly, but that's a big project. So that's going to probably take another 12 months or so. I see Miss Young has her hand raised. I'm happy to pause and take a question.
No, you can finish, Stephen, and I'll wait till you get to the end.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. So 2 projects that the Planning and Zoning Commission approved last night, which I think this body has some familiarity with both. The first one being what's called 370 West Ave, known as the former YMCA site. You can see on the map here, this is the Pinnacle site on the right, kind of where my cursor is. Doesn't look like that now. There's the art space over here on the corner. There's the Berkeley to the north. Here's Maple Street running east to west. And here is West Ave on the east side of the site. This is kind of what the building is going to look like superimposed on the property. You may recall when the hospital had the site and they were looking to develop it previously, they had talked about, the city was going to purchase this sliver of land from the state here. The city was going to potentially sell this parcel down here. Some of that didn't come to fruition. The present developer was not interested in acquiring those pieces. So those remain, this one to the south where the parking lot is will remain a parking lot and be a city asset. The city is actively working, trying to get hold of this triangular piece to the back. And the real reason is the NRVT runs kind of north-south on the west side of the property. We would like to develop that into kind of like a little pocket park, which could be an offshoot of the NRVT, and obviously would be a nice amenity to this development. So we worked into the conditions of approval that if the city gains control of that property prior to the completion of this project, that the applicant will have to develop that site in a manner that, you know, we feel is appropriate. It's mainly a residential development with a little over 200 units. The northeast corner of the site, which abuts Maple and West Ave across from Orchard, is going to have a really nice, pretty good sized public plaza out there, and there'll be a restaurant space there. So that should help to activate that corner. We got a lot of concessions from the applicant during the construction, or not pre-construction phase of this, where we asked for a lot of streetscape improvements, on-street parking, lighting, tree planting. The north side of this, which I'll show you in a little bit, has these townhouse style units. So they should have a very nice effect on the street. And one thing that was pretty stark where, and it was a pretty good collaborative effort between P&Z, TMP, redevelopment, and DPW. What we all kind of wanted to see the same thing here. It was pretty stark standing out there where Maple Street, we saw what it could be. And then what you saw from, you know, not to criticize the Berkeley, but the facade of the Berkeley really was kind of uninviting and unattractive and really didn't draw you over there. So we're looking for the direct opposite of that on this site. This is a little bit close-up view of the site plan. You can see on Maple, and it might be a little hard to see, but they've provided on-street parking spaces. We are requiring them to bury 2 of the utility poles, which should improve the streetscape. So we can also add trees, lighting. And then you see here, it's a little hard to see, but these are the stoops for those townhouses. And that will allow, you know, basically some additional pedestrian activity where the building starts to wrap the corner. This is where that plaza is, and there should be like a pretty generous outdoor seating area here for the restaurant. And then as they come around the corner, this is where the entry to the building is from the street. There is additional activity going inside the building here. And we were able to work with them to move the bus stop, which is presently located approximately here, down to the corner. And we were able to add some additional on-street parking spaces in, some additional street trees and other amenities to improve the kind of overall aesthetic and pedestrian experience for that project. Here's 2 different elevations of what the building is going to look like. The top elevation is basically if you're looking across the street from West Avenue. So this is kind of the corner with Maple Street here. This is where the restaurant will be and the outdoor seating. This is amenity space within the building. And then there are additional townhouse units as you kind of move down towards the city parking lot on the southern end of the building. The lower facade is what you see from Maple Street. So if you're looking at Berkeley across the street to this, these are those townhouse units. And you'll see that the bulk of the building is stepped back in this area. So that, you know, where it goes up to 6 stories is considerably back. And there is tenant amenity space on top of that portion of the building there. Moving south down to the 1517 Chestnut property, where I know you guys worked with the city and RDA on approving the sale of a portion of this property to the developer, and that is going to get put into a new project, which is kind of the 3rd phase of the Chestnut Street development. Just looking at this to orientate everybody, here's Monroe Street. The police station is just about here. Obviously, this is the train station and the tracks. This is the Leroy Shirt Factory building here, which is 11 Chestnut. And then this is the kind of the rough idea of where the development site is at 1517 Chestnut Street, with a portion of the city parking lot, which was taken into the development. So that site plan looks a little bit different than what we just looked at. Here is the 1 Chestnut Street. Here's Monroe. This is the building at 1 Chestnut that's already built. This is the building at 11 Chestnut, which is that 2-story historic building that was preserved as part of this. There, I have some nice renderings, which will be a little easier to see. So as part of this project, there's this pretty generous courtyard, which is which is private property, but is going to be open to the public, hopefully as much as possible. And this is where the new building is, where you can enter the parking garage from the ground level off of Chestnut. You can also enter it off of Henry Street, and then also access it from the rail station property. As you know, there's quite a grade difference between the railroad platform area and Chestnut Street. So this area up through here is going to develop into kind of a public plaza area, where this will be some sort of commercial space here. Could be a restaurant, could be, who knows, deli, coffee. There's also a very small commercial building here, which could also serve in a similar capacity. This area will be improved with seating, public lighting, and this area as well will be improved for public seating and lighting as well. This is a view looking at the building from the southeast. So what you're seeing here on the left is Henry Street. And I have some close-up views, but there are townhouse units that run parallel with Henry Street. And then as you go up Chestnut Street, here's the garage entrance. And then here is where the plaza will be. And then here's where the existing developments are. Here's a close-up of Henry Street. Gives you a flavor of what the townhouses will look like. We actually work with the applicant and our peer review architect to kind of bolster up these townhouses a little bit to, enhance the stoops, enhance the planters, soften a little bit of the brickwork to make it a little cozier and friendly. But these will have direct access to the street from those townhouses, which should help to, add a little more pedestrian life to those areas. This is what the plaza between the two buildings will look like. This is the existing building at 11 Chestnut Street. So within this space here, there's anticipated to be some sort of food service restaurant at the northern end of the western end of the plaza. So out in this area, there'll be public seating. There might be seating for the restaurant. There's a water feature. They're planning fire pits. There's access via a pretty nice exterior staircase up to that area where the rail platform is. The Planning and Zoning Commission did put a condition of approval in last night that they want an elevator or some kind of pedestrian lift to make it ADA accessible from this area. So that will be included as well. Here's a shot from basically if you're kind of standing on the train station looking at the development. This is that public plaza, public seating area. This is kind of the western edge of the project. So in here, there's seating. This is kind of some kind of commercial space where it could be a food service space. And this is that down below here, you can see the grade drop is that public plaza area. And that's it for my slides. I can go back to any one of these. One thing, and this was kind of an offshoot from COVID, but we've kind of, what probably something we should have done ahead of time is all our application materials are on our page, which is this page here. And I'm happy to forward this out if you don't have it. All the applications that we went through, whether they've been approved or they're pending, they're all off of this page on the bottom, which is a tab on the application page. And anything related to the zoning regulations update has its own page. I think we did a really good job with that. It's really comprehensive. I think it's pretty clear in terms of the comments we've put up there, staff memos, feedback. I think it's in a pretty user-friendly format. We spent a lot of time thinking about that. So if there's ever any questions on that, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer questions or anything along those lines. And I'm hopefully I covered most of what you wanted to hear or didn't want to hear. Happy to take any questions.
Darlene, you had a question?
Yes, Chair. So thank you, Steve. It all looks great. I see it happening every day. I have a question though. So how many residents, we can't even say that, how many apartments in total will there be once the 1517 is done?
So between the three phases, so this is one Chestnut up here, which is called the platform, that I think had like 150 units. This one's pretty small. There's like 12 units in here. The ground floor is all commercial. This one is 200 units, which is the just approved development. What's off the screen is the one under construction at 10 Monroe. and that's about 150 units as well. So I guess that's 3, 5, a little over 500.
Okay. And so that I've been concerned about traffic patterns for a while now. And so by the, the next 2 years, it's just going to be crazy. It's crazy now. And so I understand you all are having conversations about traffic patterns, correct? Or
Yeah, and I saw Mr. Travers was on, and he can expand on that if he chooses to jump in. But the city is looking and actively engaging with the actual, developers in this case on one-way flow on Chestnut Street, more on-street parking, making sure pedestrian access, traffic flow, bus flow all works how we want it to work.
and I can't stress this enough. People have to come out and see what the traffic really looks like, because I've been saying this for a while. Chestnut Street is impossible when you have 16-wheelers or 18-wheelers coming down the street. There's just no way to navigate that, either going in one direction in particular. So I know you all are doing that study, and I hope you engage the community in this, because it's going to be an issue, because it's an issue now.
Councilperson, it's Jim. So we just got this, the study back, and I just sent you a text earlier to say, like, are you around? I'd love to chat.
Okay.
Just to show you some of the things, and then yes, now that we got it back and we have some data, I think that I wanted to talk to you about how we best engage the community, because I think we're looking at a change in order to make things, and I think we should engage everyone in that. So
Okay.
that was the purpose of my thing. So maybe tomorrow we can have a few minutes. We can talk about how we move that plan forward.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right.
And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And Chair, I know we talked about this before, but I think it's helpful too, because there's so much development going on in the city, and if you don't drive around everywhere, you don't see it. And it just would be interesting from my perspective to be able to know what's going on and how many apartments we're building and what that looks like as far as population, even if that's a quarterly thing that we get to, something I don't know, but I would appreciate that data.
Yeah, we can provide any information you would like. We kind of get that request from other people all the time anyway, so it's not like a big lift for us at all.
Great. Thank you.
I'd be lying if I would say I wasn't concerned about all the thousands of apartments he just presented us, Steve. I think regardless of a study or, whatever the case may be, we're gonna see an increase in traffic in the coming years, regardless. But I guess that's nature of the beast. Barbara, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to comment that I really do like the inclusion of the townhouses in these two projects. I think that's something it's been really lacking in Norwalk. I do have a question about that. Will those, these are 10% affordable housing units, correct? Yeah.
Right.
So will those townhouses qualify for the affordable housing?
So I think, and I'm going to mix up which one it was. One of the developments did have, one of the townhouses was a deed restricted affordable unit within that development.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the requirement for that is 10% of the units. They have to be dispersed kind of evenly throughout the project and consistent with the mix of units within the project, whether they're two bedroom, 1 bedroom, studio, 3 bedroom, et cetera.
Thank you.
Steve, I know you touched on it earlier on the zoning regulation changes. Has and I don't need to tell you, the concern of not just myself and many others was the multifamily, changing the single family to multi-family zoning. Has that been reduced? From what I hear, it has been reduced. Is that really the case?
Yeah, I don't have a percent to give you, but I'd say it's probably at least 75% reduction, probably more from where we started. So it's been down, reduced quite a bit. And every time we look at it, it gets refined down a little bit more.
Okay, we just specifically I want to touch on East Norwalk as the representative. This is what was being proposed, been eliminated from the regulation changes.
Yeah, there were a couple of small areas within broader East Norwalk that remained, but I'd say 80% or 90% of what was in East Norwalk initially proposed has been removed.
Great. Thank gosh it was an election year. I'm glad you got that done. Great, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had one question. Steve, you mentioned that in these properties that you just went over, another approximately 500 units. Do you have any idea of what's coming after them? Are there preliminary applications in there that would indicate that we got another 500 over the next year or two? Or I guess I'm concerned about a lot of the talk that we always hear is that when is this going to stop? You know, when's the end of it?
Yeah, the only thing that's like confirmed in the pipeline is the first one I mentioned, which is up at Glover Avenue. That was approved in probably a year and a half ago now. There's nothing else imminent in any else going on. You know, you're probably aware of the Webster Street lot that could be redeveloped. That's the only other one that's, I think, under conversation. I know there's people poking around with stuff, but I also think some folks in that arena are waiting till after the zoning regulations are done to consider different things. But there's nothing major aside from the Glover Avenue that's been submitted to the city so far.
But do you get a sense at all from developers that may come in to kick the tires that maybe there's fewer developers that are coming in that are interested in Norwalk because of the density, because of the amount of activity going on? Or is it continuing interest in our particular city?
I think there's interest for a lot of positive reasons. I think one thing we've done with our planning and then some of the rezoning we've already done in terms of what we did in South Norwalk, East Norwalk, and then, you know, up at Merritt 7 is we've kind of identified the areas where we think the development should occur. And that's where we've put our, incentives in terms of increased height and density to allow that. We didn't go willy-nilly and just allow things all over the place. We said, okay, you're near a train station. It makes sense for you to develop in this manner at this part of the city and in this area to do things a little differently. So that's where we put our focus.
And one final question on the ones that you just talked about, the 500 we were talking about, are they all going to be rental or are they going to be co-op, condo?
They're 100% rental. Yeah.
100% rental. Okay.
Banks aren't lending to build condos. Ms. Smith, I'm sorry.
Thanks, John. I had another question. Yeah, it is disappointing about the banks not lending for condos because, we really could use condominiums. But is there any talk going on at all about senior housing? Because that's something that we are really lacking as well. And the part of the reason why I like the townhouses, because I think that, that's a possibility for seniors, especially, the West Avenue project where you've got the Norwalk River Valley Trail and access to, pedestrian activity. But we really have a dearth of senior housing.
Yeah, actually, the Planning and Zoning Commission members, they brought that up last night. That it was a similar concern that they raised. I don't know of any senior specific, like designated 65 plus communities or like that. Some of the newer developments that we've seen, there is downsizing that occurs within these projects that people migrate into these buildings. A couple of developments, I don't know if you've seen the one up on Richards Avenue that was done probably about a year and a half ago. I think it was 125 Richards, those were rentals, but they were all about story and a half buildings that were put in. They were pretty good size, probably close to 2,000 square feet. So these are pretty high-end units, but those were targeted towards seniors. There was another one approved at 40 Fulton Road, which I think was a pretty good size number of units. Those were a little cheaper because of the area where it was located. Those are targeting seniors, but they're not like, I would say, affordable senior housing. So if that's something that, the city's looking at or interested in, I think, like I mentioned, we're looking at the affordable housing plan. I think that's something that we can address and discuss as part of that process as well.
Yeah, I think it's important to look at senior housing at many different levels. I mean, I think about myself, where do I want to retire? Gosh, I'd really like to retire here in Norwalk, but a house is a lot to take care of when you get older. And, condominiums are great for people who are aging. So I just think that, we need to be talking about this and we need to be looking into, something.
Yeah, I'm surprised some of the developments closer to the water haven't gone the condominium route, just because I would think that would just be even more attractive for somebody looking for that kind of, because if you have access to the water or a beach or something, it just hasn't materialized. The only one was that there was a project, I think it was 11 or 12 units on Winfield Street that was just built last year, and those were condos. So that's like the only one I can think of in recent memory.
Okay, thanks.
All right, seeing no other hands raised. I will say thank you, Steve, and look forward to getting further updates down the road.
Certainly, anytime.
Chair, I see Casper, Brian's hand is up.
Oh,
Hi there.
oh,
This may not even be my place. I'm here for a totally different reason. But the one thing that I noticed, I'm the chair of the Norwalk Arts and Cultural Commission now. Hello, everybody. My name is Brian. I look at a lot of things from an aesthetic point of view, but also functionality. And the one thing that really stood out to me on the West Street development, and again, it's maybe too little too late, is that none of all this energy sort of focuses towards the street on the corner, and nothing, with the exception of the sliver of a park, really focuses towards a major asset of the city. And to Ms. Young's point about traffic, focusing retail toward bike and walking may be something to explore to help ease things like traffic and parking. It just seems the city's put a ton of money into, and then this development basically just turns it back on the whole thing. Not necessarily something to be addressed. I just wanted to bring up a point.
thanks.
Of course.
Yeah. Right. All right. Thank you, Steve.
You have one more hand raised. I don't know if it's for me before I sign off.
Yeah, it's for you.
Oh, I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm joining in late and I'm sorry I have to bail on the meeting in a couple of minutes here, but I'm just curious, the Waypoint development in the area you were talking about, like the commercial space still isn't even rented out 8 years later. It hasn't even been fitted out. Now I understand that's because a restaurateur could want to go in there and want to put like his beer keg lines and stuff like that in a certain place below the subgrade, but what's our forecast for actually filling all of this capacity? Developers come and go, but here we have an 8-year-old development that still hasn't been rented out, and now we're going to shoehorn more traffic into the area. I just wonder, do we ever look at the success of these projects as they move forward? Thanks.
Sure. Yeah. And we've been very cognizant about the commercial space requirement. I think when we first started talking about TOD and doing redevelopment, we were heavily focused on making sure we had ground floor commercial all over the place. But that market has completely shifted in the last few years. So that's why addressing what the other gentleman had mentioned too about the West Ave project, that's why we didn't require them to put ground floor commercial wrapping the building or anything. It's just, we're concerned. I'd rather have the space used in another capacity than have dead commercial space with nobody renting it. So we've looked closely at where that should be and how much of the volume should be occupied with that. I mean, the unfortunate thing with the way Waypoint was developed, which one thing people love about the project is that internal courtyard, and it's a very nice thing when you're inside, except nobody uses it unless they're inside there. The street is, that was built with its back to the street. So we don't allow that anymore. We changed the rules to not permit that anymore. But at the same time, we're not requiring everybody, have the entire ground floor be some kind of commercial space, because it's just the likelihood of it all filling up is slim.
Any other questions? Any virtual hands, real hands? Anything? Once, twice, 3 times. All right. Well, thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on to C1 under Transportation, Mobility and Parking, authorize the Mayor Harry W. Rilling to execute an agreement with Tri-State LED for $36,217.40 to upgrade the electrical fixtures in the island adjacent to the Maritime Aquarium, account number noted. Would someone like to move this item?
I move that item.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Mr. Travers, are you here to speak to this item?
I am, sir. So we were notified through Citizen Services of these lights that have been out. We did some research. After a while, had determined that these are part of the Parks and Rec, but they were never maintained by Parks and Rec. So hence the reason that we probably see the majority of these fixtures not working today. They need to be replaced. We're replacing them with the type of fixture that has been installed throughout Sono, so they'll be dark sky compliant throughout there. And the proposal that we have in front of us is not only the lowest bid for this service, but also this contractor will be painting all of the poles black to match to update the fixture itself.
Question. There you go, Ms. Young.
I'll let Ms. Smith go ahead.
We have the same question because, Ms. Young, I know you talked to me about this, this issue a couple months back. Who will maintain this moving forward?
What my conversation with Parks and Recs is that we'll find the funding to put it in, but these are Parks and Recs fixtures and they maintain the park today. So they maintain the rest of the park, but this should be included. This was not included. They didn't have funding, so we found funding just to make this happen.
Okay, so they've got it. It's theirs now.
Yep.
Clearly. Okay, thank you.
Darlene?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I just want to say thank you to Jim Travers and to Jessica for pushing this forward. How many light fixtures does that include right now? I
So the
forgot.
fixtures will be the 16 fixtures that are out there. Some of them are the dual light fixtures and some of them are the single light fixtures. So all of them will be replaced.
And they will be uniform with what is there now.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So, what is throughout Sono now? So we're not replacing them in kind with the halogen, but we're actually replacing them with the new William and
New
Mary
ones.
style for that in Sono and that are dark sky compliant.
Okay, all right. And when do you think when will this be installed?
So I had a conversation with so this has to go, so this will go, hopefully approval from you guys today, go to full council for approval. Then we will create the purchase order, and I believe the contractor said they need 3 to 4 weeks for installation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
I think you made one woman on Water Street very happy. She's been on this for a while, and so I'm very glad that we found a resolution to it. So thank you.
And I think I understand it took a while to get here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that could be a whole other discussion. But it was an important one. And so I'm really happy to get this going. I think it'll look great.
Thank you.
Agreed. It was getting pretty dark down there. I see no other hands. I will now move on. Oh, we got to call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand and signify yes. And so let the record show Ms. Shanahan arrived about 20 minutes ago, would you say? 20 minutes ago. And Mr. Meek has left us, but the motion passes unanimously. Okie dokie. Item C2, authorize Mayor Harry Rilling to execute an amendment to the CDM Smith agreement to include an additional $27,150 for the Hamilton Ave staircase account number noted. Would someone like to move this item? Thank you, Ms. Shanahan. Jim, are you on this one as well?
I am, sir. So this one is being funded out of the MLK grant. So the MLK grant not only covers construction, but also covers design. And so we did switch gears a little bit on this one. And I think, we've had some conversations out in the field. I think what we attempted to do from the original design is value engineer this to reduce costs a little bit, to get additional sidewalks in that will go on to MLK, connecting this staircase to points to the north, and looking at connections down to the Clay Street staircase to the south. Or I might have said that the other opposite way, but I think you get where I'm coming from. So we had this the new design just additionally checked by a separate consultant to make sure that we're in the right way. And I think we feel comfortable about the path moving forward. And so what this would do is this would finalize the design into construction documents that we would then put out to bid using the MLK funds for the installation of the new staircase. And I think
Great.
that's it. I could take any questions.
What's the
Yeah, I just-
estimated cost again?
Pardon?
What's the estimated cost of the project?
So we were looking at the estimated cost of the original design of the staircase, $750,000. We changed some of the designs. We got this down to $420,000 estimate cost. And we believe that with the additional funds that we can get those sidewalk connections in to really connect these staircases to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Mr. Frere?
No, I was just going to point out the same thing. Bottom line is that this looks like it's a savings as opposed to a larger expense. You saved some $250,000.
Oh, three, yeah, nearly three, yes.
Yeah, so that's, I love it when people do that.
Well, we saw there was an opportunity to get what we're hearing largely from the community that they desire, and that's better mobility and connections and sidewalks. So we think that
That's a
we
great
can
job.
tie
Great.
this sidewalks in with the other sidewalks that are planned out of the same funding source.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, seeing no other questions, I will now call for the vote. All in favor, please raise your hand and signify yes. Unanimous. Great. All right, thanks, Jim.
All right, thank you. Good night,
All
all.
right. Moving
Thanks.
on to item D1 under business development tourism, it is to authorize Mary Harry Reeling to execute a contract with You Are Not Alone Mural, Purpose Projects New York, in an amount not to exceed $25,000 to install a mural located on the Brian McMahon High School as approved by the Norwalk Public School Facilities Administration. Count number noted. Would someone like to move that item? Thank you, Mr. Ferrer. Okay, and would that be you, Sabrina, or Jessica? Who will be speaking? to this?
So it'll be me, but I'm gonna throw it over to Brian Casper, but I'll give you a little bit of background. Brian Casper is the new chair of the Arts and Cultural Commission that was just established a couple months back. He's here to join us. He's worked with You Are Not Alone to install some murals in some other municipalities, not in Norwalk. We were very excited to get this proposal brought to us and to the commission. At this point, the Arts and Cultural Commission has authorized the spend, so we're taking it through here to have the mayor execute the contract, and then really use the Arts Commission's, well, now Arts and Cultural Commission's budget to fund the project. But Brian will give you a larger overview of kind of the goals and what the project will look like. And we also have the project leads on the phone as well, so they'll be able to describe what they're going to install and kind of the meaning behind the project as well. So there you go. Go ahead, Brian.
Hello, thank you for having me. Thank you for the introduction. As Sabrina said, You're Not Alone Murals is an initiative based out of New York, using the voice of public art to raise awareness and encourage conversation around the stigma of mental illness. They have a little something to show us, but just simply put, we had a small surplus in what was the Arts Commission, now the Arts and Cultural Commission budget, looking for something to do with this extra $25,000, and this seemed like a purpose-driven project that would serve our community well. Annika and Sam activated the what was it? The Bank of America building in Darien, right before demolition, if anyone happens to see, painted bright yellow with the words "You Are Not Alone" on it. I painted that along with Annika and some help from others. And the conversations that came out of that and the way it engaged the community was impressive, simply put. So we kind of brainstormed about how to bring this up here and to the wider Fairfield County. Here we are to talk about it. I'm going to let Annika and Sam speak a little bit about their project. And I believe they have a PDF to share with you as well about this, about not only the entirety of what they're doing, but also this specifically on Brian McMahon High School. And I think, as a matter of fact, there may be a small change to the initial ask, which was $25,000 for this mural on Brian McMahon. They are actually hoping to propose a second location, which is not in the presentation tonight, hoping to be brought forth in October. So you will see a discrepancy between what is on your agenda and what is in this PDF presentation, and that discrepancy being lower. But I'll let Annika and Sam take it from here, and happy to also jump in with any questions anyone has.
Thank you so much for having us. Is everyone able to see the PDF that I'm sharing? Great. I'm Annika. I'm one of the co-founders of this project. We came up to Norwalk in 2022 to meet with Brian and check out the various walls around town. And Sam and I have both been so impressed with your dedication to the arts, and just the vibe of the whole city was really fantastic. So we've been working to find ways to make it happen. And this year we are so ready. We started in 2019 with 3 murals in Brooklyn. We always have the same color palette and the same phrase. We encourage the phrase to be painted in different languages as well, but it's always the same phrase, "You are not alone." And we've been doing more to encourage the artists to share their stories, share why the project is meaningful to them, and document that. We're working on our YouTube channel. We've been doing a lot of reels that have been getting some great engagement, and it's just really been very powerful to see the lasting effects that these murals have had in communities. So for you all, we are proposing our first mural to be at the Brian McMahon High School. We have 2 artists that we've selected: Haroon Zankel, who is in Jersey now. He's lived all over the sort of tri-state area. He's a very, very, very strong lettering artist. He'll be doing the lettering, and he's going to work with Kayla Farrell, who goes by Chalua. And she's local to Connecticut, and she does these wonderful, very figurative pieces. So we're working to have them work together on this mural. So there'll be both this idea of the clear lettering, the clear, strong message, but also a very dynamic human element to it, where you can see the different figures as well. This is a mock-up. The wall is to the left of the entrance to the high school. There's a number of large walls, and this wall, it really stands out the most. So this will be what people see when they're entering the school. We have found that conversations with teens around mental health has become, after the pandemic, just incredibly important to have.
And one, Sam jumping in with Annika here, we like to say that, these murals give us a chance to step forward and go first and start a conversation about mental health. I struggled with anxiety disorder when I was in college and wrote a memoir about my experiences. Again, it takes someone going first to share what they've been through. And immediately when people hear about our message and see the murals, they start talking. I can't tell you how many times complete strangers have come up to me to say, "Oh my God, I haven't told anyone this before, but my husband is dealing with depression." And it really encourages people to open up. And as Annika said, you know, teens are really at a crisis point and they need all the support that they can get. And so just letting them know that it's normal to have challenges, it's normal to feel anxious, and letting them know that they're not alone and that there's hope and community is really important to us.
So another thing that we plan on doing is working to see if we can find a local venue that would host a screening of a short documentary that's been made about the project. The short doc has been touring on the festival circuit and winning awards, so it hasn't been released to the public yet. So it would be a great opportunity for us to be able to tell a little bit more about what it is that we do, why it is that we do it, and we'd love to have a panel of artists and participants available for a conversation with your community, so your community can understand better why we're there and how they are now a part of this. So the budget that we have here, should I ask first if there are any questions before? No, okay. So the budget that we have here reflects only the high school and the event. We have a second wall planned that we're going to present at the next meeting, and that will account for the remainder of the 25K. That's why the number that we're looking for today is 19 instead of 25. We do have plans for a second mural, but we have to, we haven't been able to move as quickly on that one. So we're excited to share that one with you all at the next meeting.
And we'll take any questions if anybody has any.
Can you explain what the $3,000 documentation cost is?
Yeah, so this year we've put a lot of our effort into reporting interviews with artists, like at the site of the murals. And these interviews have given a much more personal connection of the people who have the murals to the artists that have created them. I don't know, Sam, maybe you can speak better to like so it would be costs for videography, video editing, and then sharing on our social.
Yeah, it's really important for us to be able to have that additional layer where we're hearing from the artists or hearing from community or hearing from, Annika and myself, because, we want it to be really a 360 experience. You're seeing the mural. Sorry, there's a small person squeaking behind me. You really want to get to know the deeper meaning behind You Are Not Alone. And for each person, for each artist, that story and that meaning is a little bit different. So this is, how we share with our community. Sorry, I'll put myself on mute.
I mean, it has the potential to reach a broader audience. I mean, for someone who grew up in the Midwest, not around this sort of thing, to maybe stumble upon something like this on YouTube and to see something like this, you don't have to participate in this event here in Norwalk on this day to really have the same impact. And I think, to pay videographers and photographers to help with that can go a lot further.
Right.
My words exactly, Brian. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, can I ask a question, John? So I think it's terrific. And that it will be at Brian McMahon High School. The kids are going to see that every day when they walk in. My question is, will the artists be engaging with the students as they're working? Will there be assemblies? How will they engage with the students, and if so, how?
Great. It's a great question. Yes, we want as much engagement as we can get out of this. I know given concerns about people being on site working during school hours, the painting is going to have to happen, or we're primarily focused on the painting happening over a weekend. But we would love to facilitate, whether it's in person or virtual, whatever makes the most sense, to be able to speak with the students about what the project is. We would love for the artists to be able to introduce themselves. If we can have people come in on the Friday before we start painting that weekend, that would be fantastic. And then maybe follow up with some sort of virtual presentation. Really, I mean, we're definitely looking forward to working with the high school to figure out how we can make sure that people are understanding the the story behind what's there now.
And you've been working with the principal already, I assume? Talking to the principal about the
Oh.
project?
First step is getting it painted. We haven't been in conversation specifically with the principal, although Sabrina may have been.
Yeah,
But the hope is,
Principal support, I just want to be sure the principal supports. Okay,
we've been in conversation with the Board of Ed. We checked with them before we came to you guys, so they're in full support of it at an administrative level. And so is the principal. So we're working with the principal to see how they can fit this into their curriculum, whether it be just for a day or if like it's just for arts classes or anything like that. So we've already had those conversations and they're excited about it. So it should be a
Great,
great
thank you.
project.
Thanks, Sabrina.
Mr. Prairie, have your hand up?
Yes, we've already invested quite a couple $100,000 in mental health support for the Board of Ed. Are we coordinating this program with any of the professionals there? I know you've mentioned talking to the Board of Ed and from an art perspective, but from a mental health perspective, has that been addressed?
not something I'm aware of.
The principal has mentioned it. We've only had one conversation with the school's principal at this point before we came to you all, but we'll definitely mention it as something that we want to do with this project specifically. And I think that's the hope as well. It's for, general mental health awareness, not just art. It's just pairing those two things. So we'll definitely take that recommendation and bring it forward again. But I think that's the principal's goal as well, is to link all of these facets together.
Because we've made a big investment in that this year. Money that was really not allocated in the budget initially, but I think it's very important that we make sure that we maximize the efforts on both sides here. So it's very important that that be touched.
I wanted to say something. Sorry, Mr. Freire, you
No,
done?
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I was just going to say, and to that point, depending on how successful this is and based on your experience, mental illness starts before high school. And so maybe even looking towards middle school, starting at 6th grade and up. And so really incorporating something that is meaningful, when we talk about allocating dollars to this issue that touches people on it has no age barrier, right? Age limit when it starts and how it progresses. But I think it's going to continue to be an issue and a real concerted effort to get the most out of the monies that we put forward, as Mr. Freire intimated, is where we need to go. But this is a good start.
Yeah, this really just gives those dollars another tool in the tool belt,
Right.
of that being of art as a means of facilitating conversation. I was not impressed with some of the assemblies that I had to go through in high school, whereas what my art teacher told me, that had waived. So, there's lots of ways to approach it, for sure. I agree with both of you entirely.
Good.
You're on mute, John.
Apologize. Seeing no other questions, I'll now call for a vote. All in favor? Unanimous. Great. Thank you all. Okay, last item on the agenda is item D2, authorize Mayor Harry Rilling to execute a contract with ARC Soundstage Lighting LLC to install, produce stages and lighting to secure entertainment for the City of Norwalk Night Fair on Washington Halloween events in the amount not to exceed $75,000 via sole source procurement and account number noted. Would someone like to move this item? Thank you, Ms. Shanahan. Sabrina, will you be speaking to this item as well?
Yes and no. So I wanted to introduce you all to Anna Brialt. She is our new special events coordinator. I'm aware that some of you have met her before. We're super happy to have her on board. This is her baby. We've worked on it as a team, obviously, but I'll let her take the reins and explain to you the event in general, the entertainment piece of it as well, and what this specific piece and contract is for. So Anna, take it away.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to present this to you. Like you said, it's my little child. But the night fair, the Halloween night fair on Washington Street, will take place Saturday, October 28th and Sunday, October 29th. Saturday being the night event from 5 to 10 p.m. and Sunday being the more lighter side of Halloween from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. We wanted to give families and children, people who might work weekends, a chance to enjoy the festival. But on Saturday, there will be multiple contests and kids will be able to trick or treat down Washington Street. And on Sunday, again, there will be other contests and a pet costume parade, which I'm super excited about. We might be working with a brand new nonprofit. I have a phone call with them tomorrow, so it's not promised. But the huge grab for this event, though, is the entertainment. And that's something we planned on from the first phases of planning this event. And we knew we were going to be spending quite a chunk of money on it. And I'm glad to be working with ARC because they're very experienced. They have multiple venues in New York City. They've done many events in Norwalk themselves. So they are kind of like the one-stop shop for all things entertainment. And they'll provide us with the full professional concert style lighting and audio system, a humongous mobile stage, and a generator to supply all the power because 50 Washington Street does not have accessible power. So they will be providing that generator. And they'll also be providing the labor, like the audio engineer, the light programmer, and all the stage hands. I think the only thing the city has to provide in this package are the barricades for the front of the stage to maintain a crowd, and 2 to 7 rooms for the entertainment itself. We're working with the residents in by Marriott and Sono. But we are asking for $75,000 to put on this entertainment piece for the night fair on Washington Street.
Great. Any questions? Nope.
So I'm not in the business. That does sound like a pretty big bill. So is that, I guess, I don't know. That just seems like a lot.
So honestly, it's not a lot in this business. I'm going to be really transparent with that. Usually productions like this go upwards of like $100,000 to $200,000. We wanted something bigger for Norwalk, something that kind of will knock everyone's socks off, if you will, and which is why we're happy to work with ARC, because they can do these concert style lightings and audio systems, and we wanted to bring that to Washington Street and kind of light up the street. And they'll be doing decorations with lighting to kind of create the Halloween ambiance down Washington and North Main Street.
And what's the traffic? So traffic's going to be blocked off, of course, right?
Yes. So we're closing the entirety of Washington Street from 50 Washington down to the harbor and part of North Main Street.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I like your incitement. And first, I should say welcome.
Thank you.
And this is a pretty big event you're trying to pull off. I know you'll do it. So I'm excited. I just think, it sounds a little pricey, but a lot of stuff happens in South Norwalk and Washington Street. And I think as we move forward and you plan more things, I'd like for us to work closer together and really inform we're going to need to be able to find a mechanism to inform residents of what's going on in their community. So they'll be much more aware of traffic patterns and what's going on, because everything happens in South Norwalk for the most part, between the beach, Mr. Kitey's district and South Norwalk, there's a lot. And so at some point, I think we can get a calendar together of things that are happening, because there's a lot going on.
Sure.
But it's all good. It is all good stuff.
Anna, do you mind if I just say a couple things? I don't
Go
want
ahead.
to take over your presentation. So just to give you a little bit of context, actually it's very equivalent to what we paid for the holiday extravaganza. And so the two events that we really wanted to push forward this year were holiday extravaganza and the work that Anna's doing for Halloween. And then in addition to that, we have a number of different events that Anna's been doing that she did not talk about, but she should, because she's been doing really great work since she joined our department. And they include Dungeons and Dragons game nights, where we had over 20 people participate at 50 Washington, ages 5 to over 60, where they all came and worked with these experts at the table to learn how to play the game. And the farmers market, which we've been really successful at over the last number of weeks, in addition to a number of different other events that we're looking at. Anna and Sabrina have been collecting ideas from the Arts Festival and also the Farmers Market, where we've been sort of asking people what they want to do, how they want to do it. And, it's just a really big opportunity for us at the city to be able to own some of these and offer residents some of these events. I feel like we've always talked about different nonprofits and private organizations coming into the city and offering events for the residents. And it's just really exciting to be able to have the city offer, talk to residents, learn what they want, where they want it, and be able to respond to that. And, with the ARPA dollars, it's been a real help, because one of the categories under ARPA is tourism and being able to do these type of recreational activities where people are coming into the neighborhood. And so we're trying to tie all of these holiday celebrations and all of these special events, in addition to, using the ARPA funds, trying to really tie it to the work that's going on with the walk bridge, because we know that there's going to be an impact in South Norwalk over time on these projects and with the businesses and so on and so forth. So we've been meeting with the walk bridge team to try to figure out what the road closures look like and try to offer residents different experiences with that too. So I don't want to totally sabotage your presentation here, but she's been doing a really, really great job. And I just wanted everyone to know that, one, it's in line with what we saw with the holiday extravaganza. So the number is a big number, but that's sort of the level of event that you should expect to see for Halloween, which gives a little bit more perspective. And then also, we have those calendars out for those other events, and we can send those to you as well. But great job, Anna and Sabrina, for being able to dream really big for the city of Norwalk. It's really exciting.
Smith?
Yeah, I just would like to welcome you home, Anna. I will always remember your star turnout as Ursula on the the Little Mermaid on the Norwalk High School stage.
Oh yeah.
Everyone knows what a big fan I am of the Norwalk High School Music Department. So
Me too.
That and others. So it's great to have you back home and in this position. And then, Jessica brought up that the cost for the extravaganzas last year, but it was ARC that we used, correct?
Right. Mhm.
So we know they do excellent work.
Yes, they're very great.
Okay, thank you.
I think with that excellent work, so we're looking at about $150,000 for entertainment in South Norwalk, in addition to, I think, the other things that we've done. And so I think when we look at and hear all the things that we're doing, and we're not doing cheap things, we're doing it the right way. And so what does that budget really look like moving forward? Because, as West Avenue develops in that area, we're going to be doing the same thing. So,
Right. Well, at the Arts Fest, Sabrina and I wrote down a question, which was, what kind of events do you want to see in Norwalk? And a large amount of those replies were live music. And although we do a lot of live music in Norwalk already, I think people just want more of it. So the budget going forward is really unknown, but we know we want to continue building these live events or live music events.
absolutely. I agree with you about the music. One of the things we did with Recreation Parks was try to mix it up a little bit with the jazz concert, slow going, but I think we don't need to piecemeal things. If it's something that you can do and we can get things moving in a more cohesive manner, I think that's great.
And
you're going to be very busy.
Right. Well, with this event in particular and the holiday event, we're looking for vendors to attend the event, and we are charging a vendor fee just to maintain crowd control and maintain the number of vendors that are attending the event. And we are also looking for sponsorships, which we have yet to send out, but I've created the sponsorship package and it's going to be sent out very soon.
Great, no questions? Well, you can guarantee it, all the politicians will be there because it'll be a week before the election. For sure. And their best, their Sunday best. All right, all in favor, please raise your hand and signify yes. Unanimous, great. All right, thank you all. And now I will call for a motion. All in favor? All right, everyone, have a great night.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.